This recording? I think it is, but yeah, hi everybody. I figured today I'll jump on here. I'm gonna make a box, and I thought, well, why not make a video while I'm at it? I'm gonna try this new system my grandson hooked up for me. So today I got this little wooden box at Michael's. I think they're like $5.99. And first off, I'm gonna paint it with some chalk paint in the color of Blue Dusk. Oh, I'm out of frame here. Yeah, it's Blue Dusk. And I'm going to paint it and let that dry. And on the inside of the box, I have some papers I thought I'd put on the inside. I got a line running over here. Let me get that real quick. Okay. I have some papers that I'm going to put on the inside of the box. There's that one, you know, on the bottom and the top of the lid. And I found these little doodad things, little different things. I thought about putting a applique on the top of the box, which would be that. And I have some little laces and some little flowers. They're blue. And I put this butterfly thing here together. And I have another little blue flower and a blue leaf. But once it comes to decorating the box, I'm constantly changing my mind. So it's hard saying what I'll wind up doing, but that's the plan. So I like to get my stuff out ahead of time so that I can, you know, get going on the box. I got some drippage over here. Okay, so let's get painting this box. Get my paint over here where you can see. Get you in frame here. Yeah, okay. It's Memorial Day weekend and ain't really got nothing planned to do. I was going to go over to my son's and help him finish cleaning up a mess that he was left with, so. But he had some things he wanted to get done, so we kind of put that, being it's a holiday, we didn't feel like working on the holiday. So I'm painting the bottom first, which I know is crazy, but I do it that way, so that way by the time I get the sides, and because I got a feeling this is going to take a good 2 coats. I do the sides, and by the time I get done with that, sometimes the bottom's dry to where I can flip it up and do the top. So, yeah, Memorial Day. You know, it's a nice holiday because, you know, you usually get it off work. But it's also, you know, a sad holiday if you think about why. You know, it's memorial for all the people we've lost and the heroes we've lost. And, you know, it's in memory of them. I guess it's whichever way you look at it. It could be good memories because, you know, you had good memories with them, but it's still the fact that we lost them. But then you could look at it as they're in a better place. So, yeah, it's could be, you know, the holiday could be good for some people and not so good for others. It's, you know, I love the spring. I love the springtime of the year. All the flowers starting to bloom. Everything that was asleep is waking up. The animals, you know, are out. The birds are out, you know, setting up their nest for their new families. The little rabbits are out, making little dens for their little babies. It's just sit out in the yard and I watch all this and I'm thinking, wow, this is so neat, you know. Guess we're trying not to get this on the hinges. So I'm actually going to make this for somebody. And I think she knows who she is. So, yeah. I'm hoping I do it upright. Yeah, I got a little bit on that hinge. Boy, it looks like a streak, don't it? It's just where it's drying, guys. But it don't look like a very good paint job. But like I said, there's going to be a couple coats, and then I'll probably put a sealant on it or something to make it shiny. I just had to order me a new tablet. I like to get on my tablet because it's something I can jump on real quick if I'm downstairs cooking or I'm out in the yard or something to watch videos. Up here I have to log into this computer and get it all up and running, but yeah, I was over my son's and I dropped my tablet and my phone at the same time and cracked both the screens on both of them. I couldn't believe it. I thought, what is the luck? So the phone is still working, the tablet not so much. So I had to get on and order me a new tablet. I'm waiting for it to come. I don't know much about electronics and what's good ones and what's bad ones, so I just looked at them and seen what it did and looked at the reviews and just ordered me a cheap little tablet, so I got something to jump on to when I'm wanting to just do something. And I used it also to make my videos, and I don't really know how to make videos on this computer. Like I said, I am not very tech smart, and so I'm going to try this and see if this works, and if not, I'll go back to my tablet when I get the new one comes. So yeah. So has everybody got plans for the holiday? They're gonna have cookouts, they're gonna you know, your plans for the holiday? You're gonna have, family over, or you're gonna do all that, have the big cookouts and enjoy family, and hopefully the weather's nice. Sometimes the weather can play a big role in a lot of your cookouts or graduation parties. Then you last minute you got to change it, and it's kind of sometimes can be a pain. Yep, my granddaughter, she's a junior. She's done with her junior year, so got one more year. She'll be a graduated senior, and then it's off to college. So, and I'll be an empty nester. After raising 6 boys and 3 grandkids, and yep, I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with myself being an empty nester. Well, maybe I can make a different room into a craft room and have a lot more space. That would be one of the good things, but you hate to, it would have to be the guest room, and then that's going to limit the space when guests or the kids come home to visit, or I could probably store some craft stuff in there and still keep the bed in there. So put some stuff in the dressers, the dresser drawers. That might work. I've really been thinking about saving up and getting me one of those sheds. It's like little tiny sheds, and not real tiny, but them little, they look like a little outdoor barn or something. I just don't know how that would work with wintertime. I'd have to really critterize it so that I don't get the chipmunks and the mice and stuff in there eating stuff that they shouldn't be. And believe me, we get them. I had my truck, and it had a couple issues. I was going to get it fixed, and I was leaving it parked out there for a while in the driveway, and chipmunks got up in there and ate the wiring in it. So I had to have all new wiring in my truck, which was expensive. So I got that fixed, and I didn't really drive much at the time. I just didn't have any place to go. I didn't want to get out. I didn't want to do nothing. And So, yeah, I just left it sitting there, and that's what happened. So I got that all fixed, and then I decided, I don't drive it enough to really, keep it when my son needed a vehicle, so I just give it to him. He he drives it. He needed it more than I did, so. And he was happy to get it, so. Love you too, hon. Be careful. My granddaughter, she's leaving for work. She got her a little job for the summer. I don't really like her to work through the school year because I like her to, you know, concentrate on her studies. And if, she's trying to hold down a job and her studies, and she has a lot of college course classes she's taken too on top of her regular classes and little things that she's into. I just don't want her to get burnt out and, holding down a job too when she doesn't really need to. She just likes to have that little extra. So in the summer, it's fine. And if she, wants to continue working when school starts and it's not too much, that's up to her. But I'd rather she concentrate more on her schooling. Workforce is going to be there soon enough. I told her to enjoy being a kid. The adult world is there. It's going to be there when you're ready. And then you're going to think, wow, where did my childhood go? I can remember being a kid saying, man, I can't wait till I grow up. I can't wait till I become an adult. I'm going to do so much. I'm going to be this. I'm going to do that. Yeah. Now it's like, why did I wish to grow up so quick? That's the part that you don't know as a kid. You don't think about that. We live and we learn. I seen a thing today where they had this group of kids. They have like a skate park in our town. And they had a group of kids. I don't know. They said there was like, I don't know, 50 kids or more. And they went to one of the main streets in town where there's a McDonald's and a Wendy's and all that. And they were out there and they were in their cars. They were blocking traffic. They were fighting with each other. They were going into the restaurants. They were harassing the people. I don't know what all happened. And when the cops came, they were smarting off to the cops and sassing the police when they were trying to get them to leave, and just, being hoodlums, as we called them back in our days. And they made some comments on some of the posts, about where were the parents? It's the parents' fault. It's this, it's that, Partially, yes, but when everybody keeps blaming the parents, it's not right. Because as a parent of 6 sons, I couldn't say wait till your dad gets home because their dad worked all the time. So when I took matters into my own hands, I took matters into my hand. And then when their dad come home, he took the rest of the matter into his hand. If it required, spanking their butt. I would get them too, but I mean, very seldom did I get them. I never had to because they were in fear of what their dad would do. And so, and I can remember my mother, if we did something wrong, there was no hesitation. If you did something with the neighbors, they had the right to get on you. And then when you got home, you got another one. If you acted up in school, the principal took care of it. And then when you got home and your parents knew you got in trouble, you really got in trouble. If you acted up at your grandparents' house or anybody's house, you got in trouble when you got home. You never talked back to your parents. If your parents said do the dishes, you didn't say, oh, I'm just going to do them later. I want to go out and play. No, you didn't say that. You went in there and you did the dishes. If they told you to clean your room, you cleaned your room. You knew when you come home from school, first thing you did was your homework and your chores. And then you had your dinner. And that's another thing. Families sat down and had dinners. We can't do that now, very seldom, because both parents have to work. And when both parents are working, the children are raising each other, or they're being raised by the media because they're on gaming, they're on channels, they're on YouTube, they're on whatever. So, therefore, these children aren't really getting the discipline that we received when we were children. Not only that, they took so many rights away from the parents. I'm not saying black your child's eye, put bruises on them, whatever. No. But you know, if mama got that wooden spoon, or she got her slipper, or dad come home and said, hey, get upstairs to your room, I'll be there in a minute, and he got his belt, you was going to get a spanking. And that put the fear into you to where you didn't do it again. But when they started taking away the rights of the schools, the rights of the parents, I'm not saying that it's against the law to spank your child, but it's like this. If you're spanking your child in the store because they're throwing a fit and you reach down and you swat them on the butt with your hand, you've got people there that actually, they go off the deep end. They start harassing you. They call the police. They do this. And you know what, people? You have to break a twig, because if you want it to grow or form that twig, you have to keep that twig in line if you're growing a tree and you want it to grow up straight. If you wait till it's a tree trunk, you can't break it. So therefore, my mother always said, when it comes to children, you break them as a twig. You can't straighten them out when they're a tree trunk. And if the lightning strikes them, it's too late. So think about that when you're dogging people that saying it's the parents' fault. Yes, some parts of it might be, but 90% of the time, you better think maybe both of those parents are working, and that child isn't supposed to be doing what he's doing, but he's out sneaking off, or he's doing this. You know, as a parent, we didn't grow up with a rule book, and we don't have eyes in the back of our head. But parents, you should know what your children are into at all times. And if they're doing wrong, the punishment should fit the consequence. Not, oh, well, don't do it again, honey, because I'm going to do this or that. No, you punish it at the time it happens. Don't wait around on that, because this is what goes on when the children aren't disciplined. Some of you may agree with me, some of you may not, but hey, that's just the way it is. I mean, we got a society out there that is really messed up, folks, really messed up. So let your conscience be your guide, but make sure your conscience is what it should be. So, yeah. I can remember, I don't think my daddy ever spanked me in my life. And being from the South, you know, we were disciplined very heavily. My mother did it. And believe me, I would have loved to have had spankings from my dad instead of my mom. Because my mama was one, she could really put out an ass whooping. And you didn't forget it. But I asked my dad when I was about 13, 14, somewhere around there, why he never spanked me. I said, I seen you spank my brothers. And, you know, he said, I didn't have to spank you. You didn't give me any reason to. And if you did have a reason to get spanked, your mama spanked you enough for the both of us. So, yeah. But now, my dad would get on you, but he would give you a talking to. And that talking to was worse than any spanking, because he had a way of making you feel really bad. But now on my brothers, yeah, he would put a butt whooping on him. Now, if I did something really, really bad, I know my dad probably would have spanked me. I mean, he smacked my little sister one time on the butt because he told her to quit climbing because she was a climber and she was little and she was very tiny. And when she would fall, she could, she was very easily broken. And he kept telling her, quit climbing, quit climbing, quit climbing, quit climbing up on that. She wouldn't listen. He told her about 2 times, and that 3rd time he said, now, I told you, quit that climbing, you didn't quit it. And he gave her a spanking on the butt, just a couple of swats. It about killed her. Well, she never climbed anymore after that in front of Dad. I don't think she climbed outside of Dad because you know, she knew that she got in trouble for it, and she was dainty, and she knew what it could be like to, you know, break a bone, because she'd broke enough of them. She rode her, when she was little, she had a tricycle, and she went riding, and she didn't stop in time, went down the basement steps on her tricycle. Yeah, broke her little foot. So, yeah, she knows. And then one time she fell climbing up on a dresser, and we had a window by our sun porch, and she fell down through that, busted that window, and put a big scar on her cheek from climbing. So, yeah, she's lucky she didn't kill herself, that window. So, oh, let's see, I got that dry, or I mean painted, so now it's a matter of waiting for it to dry. So I could set that off to the side and wait for it to dry, and then I'll possibly be giving it another coat. We'll see how good it dries. I'm wishing I love this little paint thing, guys. Let me show you this. I got this from Temu, because I was constantly running my brushes downstairs, but it's got a place in here to put your water and your your little brush cleaner. I buy this little brush cleaner to wash my brushes in. But it's got this, and it's got these little compartments here, like if you wanted to, going to use more than one or two colors of paint. Then you got a lid. But I really like this. I mean, it's really comes in handy. So right now I'm washing, and you got this thing you can run your brush off to, and it washes up really nice. I don't know, I think I give maybe $5-6 for it on Temu. But now I don't know what it would be, being, we have all that stuff with imports and that going on. So I don't know what it would be. I'm sure you could probably find one maybe on Amazon or something. But yeah. But I think it's one of the best little purchases I made from there. I was really skeptical for the longest time about ordering from Temu. I'd rather support our own country, but then when I was buying stuff at Dollar Tree and Dollar General and Myers and Walmart's, which I hardly ever shop Walmart's. I don't really care for Walmart's that much. You pick it up, it's made in China anyway, so I thought, oh well, so what's the difference? So, yeah, that was one of the purchases I got from there. So, actually, some of the lace I'm going to use on this, I got from there too, and the paper. They got some beautiful paper packets, guys, from there. If you use if you're scrapbooking or something, I got paint on my hands, so if you're scrapbooking and stuff, yeah, their paper packets are very nice. So, I did get a bag done. I don't want to get paint on it, but I got another one done. My daughter-in-law wanted a tote bag, so I got this done for her. She wanted it in hot pink and gray and white, and I put a little liner in there. I bought those little bags at like Michael's, the little tote bags they set up by the registers and I sewed it in there. They're cloth. I just sewed them in there. I got some stuff in there I'm sending to them, so. But that's her bag. I did get that done, and I crocheted the handle. So it was her. It's a pretty good sized bag. Let me see if I can get it up in there a little more. Yeah. So it's just made with little granny squares. I got that done. So, but yeah, I just wanted to jump on here and do a little video and talk a little bit and let this dry, and I'll jump back on later when it's dry. Thanks. Talk to you guys in a bit.